you need to think about those things and actually implement them and have them ready and work on them when people are brought on board. I think that's the big thing that most people don't do. It's like, hey, just ride in the truck with me for 2 weeks and then go door knock. Like, that's not really helpful for most people. It's just not going to help. And even if you go through some sales training that's a third party sales training, that can be helpful in one sense, but you're not really on the same mission at that point. You're just like, you're giving them skills that may help them, but not really help the company.
Yeah. One, I would say that you're definitely much more focused now on what you want the company to be. I would say that like you're much more clear on what you want the company to be and what you want the mission to be. But I think you at least had enough of a grasp back in 2017 when I first started working with you that I could understand like, hey, we don't know exactly what it's going to look like. We don't know exactly what the day-to-day is going to be, but roofing companies have always kind of operated in one way, and I want to find a way to do it differently that makes it better for the company, for the customer, and for the roofing industry in general. And so that was enough that I could grasp on of like, I feel like the word disruption or just like a industry disruptor gets thrown around a lot. It's kind of like a buzzword. But I mean, essentially, like we were wanting to do that a little bit, maybe not necessarily kicking down doors kind of disruption, but like we're going to quietly try to do things differently, and it's going to be something that people notice. And yeah, and I mean, I at least had a grasp of we were trying to make that sales process better from day one. And we tried a million different things. Like I've done door knocking. I've done just door hangers. I've done sales pitches where I don't meet with the person. I've done where I've sat down at a kitchen table with somebody and stayed at their house for an hour or more. We've tried so many different things, drilling down on figuring out what it is that works. It's going to give somebody that best experience, but still gives them the best end result. And I think you were clear enough at the beginning that we could see that was something that was going to align. And I didn't need a perfect 25-step plan of what that was going to look like. I just was like, you know what, like let's figure this out together. And I think we've largely been able to do that.
Agreed.
I want to ask, I want to get your perspective. You have a very interesting, you had a very interesting experience because you came in and worked with John back in 2017. And at that point, John was using a CRM whose initials are J and N.
John was not even using that at that point.
Oh, really? He'd already
transitioned.
transitioned.
It was just Google Sheets before, but yeah.
Oh, this was before then. Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how we ended up with that other
I
CRM.
demoed like 12. I demoed like 12 CRMs, and I was just like, I gotta find one. We gotta find one and use it all together. I know that we had to use it all together.
Yeah. But you're right, AJ, that I put a lot of hours into that first CRM trying to figure it out and make it work and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then now you came back, and when you came back, John had already had ProLine all set up, right? For the most part.
A breath of fresh air.
But yeah, just I think this is important because it's from the sales reps perspective. What was that experience like going from that other CRM and then leaving and then coming back and then coming in with? I mean, you said a breath of fresh air, but I mean, I don't know if you have more insight there. Is like, what was the difference for you as a salesperson coming in between those two experiences?
Yeah, so I put a lot of time in that first CRM, and it was interesting because right around 2019 when I moved into education, John was starting to say like, hey, I don't think this is actually giving us what we need. And I agree that it wasn't necessarily really working out for us perfectly, but I was kind of resistant in moving to something else. Just because I put so much work and effort into trying to piece together things and you know, using like Zapier and all this other stuff to try to cobble together something. So there was kind of like I was almost like having that sunk cost fallacy where I was like, man, I put so much time into this, I don't want to like give all that up. So then I leave and then I come back, and it was really interesting to see Proline having all these things that we talked about all those years before. I mean, not that long, but you know, 4 or 5 years before, we were saying, I wish it would do this, I wish it would do that, I wish it would do this, and Proline did it for me. You know, just like the automations being set up, I mean, just the workflow worked really well. I mean, it was just kind of like, there was so much stuff that you can do with other CRMs, but the amount of time that I was putting into it to make those systems work really wasn't worth it. And then to see how quickly I could just, you know, put this person in this workflow, and now I've got all these automations set up and these campaigns are going and all this stuff. I was kind of blown away by how seamless it was and how easy it was to step back into that. I think it definitely made coming back really easy. I mean, leaving with one CRM and coming back into another potentially could be like a really difficult thing, but I think that Proline worked in a way that it's almost like you have this idea of what the natural next step needs to be. And there was multiple times that I was like, okay, well, now we need to do, I don't even remember exactly what it was. Like, we need to do this or that. And it's like, I needed to talk to our person who's going to put together the work order, but I didn't actually need to. I called her and I was like, hey, you know, we got to get this work order together. And she's like, oh yeah, I already got the task from Proline, so I already put that together. And so I would say on the workflow side of things, it worked in the way that my brain naturally thinks, like these are the next steps. On the collaborative side of things, I think that's also a really big piece. The fact that multiple people in the same organization are able to collaborate on customers and projects and tasks easier, I think is so helpful. I think even yesterday, I can't remember exactly what it was. Someone had signed a contract, but we're waiting on financing to get approved. And so, you know, our same person that's going to schedule that job to be done since the contract has been signed, she had already been able to see the conversation that I had with the customer about how we were needing to wait just a minute to get his job scheduled until financing worked out. And she just sent me a text message and said, hey, I'm just going to wait to schedule this until financing works out. The fact that she was able to see all that, I just turned around to John and I was like, oh, I love this so much that I don't have to I was gonna go ahead and text her and let her know all that, but I didn't have to fill her in. She was able to see everything. I think that's a huge piece.
I think it's something that people may not understand about what Proline does is that everyone on your team can see all the communication for every single project that every part of the work.
Oh, they're assigned to it. There's
yeah, they have to be
someone's
assigned.
yeah, or they're an admin, but yeah,
Correct.